All right. This one is a journey.
All right.
This story here, guys, is about to be a roller coaster. So
I'm ready.
tap in, listen up, and give me your honest opinions. Am I the asshole for thinking my ex-husband deliberately hid all of his wealth so I'd walk away from our divorce with basically nothing? Right off bat, yes. No, not you. He's the asshole. Yes.
Is he?
Right off bat, yes.
Wait, he thinks that?
Yeah.
So there's no confirmation.
No, not yet. Not yet. We don't have any context. It's just the title. I'm just saying right off the
okay,
bat.
okay,
right off
okay,
the bat from the title, I'm just saying he's a waste you.
But why is he a waste? He's seen something in her
Nah, divorce
that
is a
stood
battlefield.
out.
Oh, that's where your mind is going?
That's where my mind is going.
Oh, okay.
Listen, divorce is a battlefield. Lock in.
Lock in.
Lock in.
Okay, lock in. So, I'm a 33 female and was married to my husband, Samir, 36 male, for 8 years. When I met him, he looked like he had his whole life together. He ran multiple businesses, always dressed like he had somewhere important to be, showered me with gifts, paid for everything, and gave off the whole provider vibe. When we got married, we had 2 little boys together, and honestly, in the beginning, it felt like a dream. Fast forward a few years later, and the marriage just flattened. No cheating, no big blow-ups, nothing dramatic. We both kind of slid into roommate mode and mutually agreed to separate. I thought, okay, this is sad, but at least it's simple. Except, no. When I went to a divorce lawyer, she starts asking me about assets. And I'm like, yeah, my husband owns X business, has Y property, and I know he's got a portfolio because he's always talking about meetings and investments. So she comes back to me later and says, he doesn't legally own anything. Not a single thing in his name. His businesses in his mom's name. His house in his mom's name. His investments in his mom's name again. Everything. Every literal dollar was tied to his mother. My lawyer told me that unless I can prove he did this to intentionally hide assets, good luck. That's basically nothing to fight for. Legally, he's broke. So I confronted him. Samir just shrugged it off and said I was being dramatic and that this is how the family has always structured things. Then he iced me out. Stopped talking. Stopped explaining. Acted like I was trying to rob him blind. Now he's here. Now here's where things get complicated. We have 2 young boys. He's only offering child support, enough to cover the basics for them. Food, clothes, school stuff, and nothing extra. He made it clear that I'd have to downsize my apartment and figure out my own life now because he's not responsible for me anymore, he says. So basically, he gets to keep living the exact same lifestyle we had when we were married, and I'm supposed to squeeze into a smaller place, go get a full-time job immediately, and make everything work on a bare bones budget because he found a loophole. My attorney said the same thing everyone else is saying. Morally, shady. Legally, you're stuck. I don't want to take this man for everything. I'm not asking for half his empire, but I also don't think it's fair to have, after 8 years together, 2 kids, and me being the primary caregiver, walk away with nothing while he keeps his entire lifestyle untouched. He argues that his responsibility is only to his sons, not to me. I argue that he's only able to support them because I was the one maintaining the household, handling the boys, and keeping our family functioning so he could build all that not really his wealth. So, am I the asshole for thinking he'd intentionally hide everything to make sure I'd be screwed in divorce? Or am I expecting too much? And should I just take the child support and rebuild my life on my own? A lot of context there, boys.
That's a lot
of context there, boys. That's a, like I said, roller coaster of a story. But I'll leave the table open for you guys. Give me your opinions.
He did the right thing. Listen, you got to make sure you protect the
He did the right thing?
Listen, you got to, no, but I would say that protecting your assets is the right thing, but it gets sticky when you involve the kids. You cannot live in a better environment than your kids are. So, like, if he's living in a lavish apartment and his kids are living in like a 2x2 blocks, like, can't be having that. And like, just to do that out of spite for the mother is like childish and it's not mature.
Okay.
But if they're like single, you know, it is what it is. But because the kids, as well as like she did support with the family, she was there, you know, and like they mutually agreed it was just a fizzling out of the relationship, which does happen, you know, there's no animosity between one another. I do feel like she earned, as well as like does have the right to at least live in an environment where she's not like super downsizing. I understand they have to move and like he has to redistribute the finances into supporting a lifestyle for himself, as well as a separate lifestyle for now his ex-wife and the 2 kids. So his funds are not going to be able to just have a nice, really nice apartment anymore, but you shouldn't be able to have that big gap change. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Like you can't be high level and your kids are low level. That's scummy.
Okay.
Protecting your assets. One thing you did say that is just what the family does. So maybe that's just what the family was doing the entire time. You know, like his dad, his brothers, like the cousins, the whole family dynamic. Just make sure the money stays within the family, which you can't really part. Like you can't really fault him for that. And yeah, now the final thing is that like, is she an asshole for thinking that he did this on purpose? I would say she's not an asshole for thinking that, because it's basically true. Like the way you set out the story, like it's the set down foundation for how the business model is. Make sure you keep the family, make sure you keep the money in the family.
So it is deliberate.
Exactly. So it's deliberate. It's like she's not really an asshole for thinking that it happened. You know what I mean?
Mm.
It's real.
Okay.
Yeah.
I wouldn't see. That's why I disagree. I wouldn't say it's by purpose, because if that's how the family does it, it's not deliberately to you. This is how the family structures of keeping the wealth with the parents and keeping the mother as the guardian. This was before you. This is going to be after you. This is how it's structured. My next marriage, if he gets there, this is how it's structured. Now, his personality, he's an asshole. But you keeping your wealth with your parents protects you and your wealth from any legalities, surpassing divorce if you get a liability in one of your businesses and someone gets harmed and they end up trying to scam you, or it's a false claim. They can't get you for anything. They can't rip you for anything because technically you don't own anything.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I think there is a bubble that they surrounded themselves with as a family, and some knowledge they pass down to each other that a lot of families unfortunately are able to.
Mm.
So again, morally, I agree with the lawyer. He's an asshole for how he's speaking and how he's representing himself afterwards. But I don't think all the behavior is out of spite. And I think what pushed him over the deep end is her trying to go to the lawyer and trying to figure out all the finances without having. I think they should have had a sit down beforehand and try to figure that out instead of going to the lawyer right away and try to find out his finances, where you could have just found out from him or his family.
Mm.
So you're saying he should have, or she should have went to him directly to get some sort of like break off?
She should have went someone that's mutual to try to figure things out of how the next steps are going to look like, instead of finding out through a lawyer. Because I think there's better ways. Some families are, one person takes care of the finances, the other person takes care of the family, which it seems like this how this was. But there's other ways you could find out the information instead of how I'm picturing it, and it's not how it was verbalized. Her going to the lawyer, coming home to him, snapping at him, saying, "Hey, why do you have all your money with your parents?" And then them having that back and forth, and him building it up in his mind, saying, "Oh, she's trying to go to the lawyer right away. She's trying to rob me."
Yeah. Yeah. From his perspective, it's very understandable.
Yeah. How he spoke to her afterwards, saying, "Go downsize, go figure that stuff out," is coming off the back of that. He's still an asshole for that.
Yeah.
But you never know what people's minds can build things up to.
So is she an asshole?
I think he's still more of the asshole morally, again, because of how he's speaking to the mother of his children and how he's trying to
But what did he say that was like so vile?
go downsize your life
Yeah.
and go basically figure it out. I'm going to give him money for the kids.
Yeah.
You go figure it out. Which for me, I don't know if I'll get a legal marriage. We don't know. In our culture, some people do, some people don't. They don't want the government or whoever to decide their future for them.
Okay.
So we shouldn't have to go to someone that we don't know that's only thinking about the legality, where we can go to someone that represents our culture or someone who represents our religion that can sit us down, try to figure things out. If not, try to come up with something reasonable that we can go forward with.
Why do you think that wasn't the case?
Why do you think what's not the case?
Why do you think that they didn't have a reasonable like financial amount that she would have been getting? Because he's paying for his sons, right? So you're assuming that if he's paying for his sons, he's only giving her like a cap to the point where she can't.
He said that.
Yeah, but like, how do we? My question, and I'm trying to just give you some pushback,
Yeah.
right? My whole thing is, we're looking at this story from the perspective of one person, right? We don't know the perspective of the husband. She could be embellishing in this story.
Sure.
And what I mean by embellishing is, like, if I have kids with somebody, right? And we're just following her logic right now. The marriage mutually faded, right? We're not like in love with each other. We're kind of roommates, right? So we're not like together, right? We don't know what the cause of that was. We don't know which person is still more invested in the other. We don't know that. That's a theory to have in this story, right? Another thing too is that if I have kids, I have 2 sons, and I'm getting a divorce from my wife, and my kids are not going to be living with me exclusively. How, like, in what world would a human being not be paying for their kids to live a good life or a manageable life? And with a manageable life, they have to be taken care of by a person who's responsible enough to live them or give them the life that they deserve, which is their mother in this scenario, right? Otherwise, give me my kids. Like, if you're not able to provide for them or give them the life that they deserve, then let me get custody of my children.
So your solution in this example, your solution for this example would be the husband taking the kids if she's not able to financially.
Because the thing is, the part that sticks out to me is she's saying, I'm not getting my share. Everybody else is getting what they're like allowed or what they should be getting, right?
No, but the post said that he capped, like, he only gave the basic necessities for the kids and capped at school, food, like the basic necessities.
Yeah, who's to say they can't live a good life with that?
Yeah, that's more perspective.
That's what I'm saying. We're looking at it from, like, okay, let's say hypothetically, just to sidetrack this for a second, right? Let's say they're living in a big house, mansion-sized house, right? And the husband's paying for everything. Now they're getting a divorce, right? Now she's got to live in a smaller house, right? But instead of living in a big house, right, they're living in a smaller house, and all of the stuff that the kids need in terms of, like, schooling, food, and every type of financial preparation that they need is being covered for. You just have to manage everything else. How is that a bad scenario?
No, but, like, you have to ask yourself, like, how are you living? Like, if you are living a
But why does that matter? If I'm living better and I can provide more for the kids, give me the kids. That's
so
what I'm
you're
looking
saying
at.
that if you
Why
want to
do
pass
we-
that threshold of basic income, give me the kids.
Why do we have to look at this scenario where the woman has to be the person who has to take the kids? That's my question. Why can't it be a scenario where the guy is in a better position to be the main stay-at-home parent for the
But you
kids?
have to look at the history of the post. The post did say that she was a stay-at-home mom for the last 6 years.
Right.
The husband had no disagreements with it, had no issues with it, because remember, like, there's no issues. It's just a fizzled-out relationship. So therefore, there is a history of the actual mother being a good mother.
Could be the case, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm only saying, okay, I'll give you an example of my thinking here, right?
Mm.
I watched this movie a couple months ago, and I was telling you about it. It's called Kramer versus Kramer, right? And in the movie, right, the premise of the movie itself is there's a workaholic dad, right? He's extremely workaholic. He's always out, spending time at meetings, offices, and stuff like that, right? And then his wife is at home with their son, raising their son as a stay-at-home mom, right? And the husband is so, like, he's so absent from the actual household. He's so in and out that the wife is pretty much left to, he pretty much, like, abandons her as, like, a mother. You just stay at home, you do all the motherly stuff, and I'll go and be the breadwinner. And then she ends up, like, becoming, like, super depressed, and, like, it starts to drill on her mentally to the point where she's like, I can't take it anymore. I can't even be a mother. And she just leaves. She just leaves in the middle of the night. She says, there's your son. Go ahead. You guys live your life together. I can't take it. She basically had a breakdown, right?
Sure.
And then the premise of the movie is that the dad has to now stop in the midst of his tracks because he's at tunnel vision, right? He's got blinders on. I'm just trying to make the most amount of money I can to give my kid the best life. He has that tunnel vision on, but now he has to stop and actually learn everything his wife was doing in the house, how she was managing the house, how she was managing this kid's upbringing, and become a real parent at home. And that's the beauty of that movie, is that he ends up becoming the parent that, the child needed, right?
Yeah.
And he ended up eventually losing his job. He had to downsize his finances and stuff like that. They ended up moving apartments and stuff. And it was such an interesting story because it brings to light the aspect of parenthood that a man can have for their child, right? Because majority, and I'll tie it back to the scenario too, is in this perspective of this story, we're seeing it as the child only needs the mom, right? We don't ask ourselves, can the child be better off with the dad? We don't ask ourselves that because we're seeing this in the viewpoint of the mother, the person who's quote unquote being taken advantage of or being left out and stuff like that. But my point is, and the pushback initially to give you was that this story can be given from a perspective of someone who's, asking for too much or like a negative perspective. Basically, what I'm saying, we have to keep that in mind, right? On the flip side too, what you're saying is 100% right. It matters to provide for your spouse or your ex-spouse that's going to be taking care of your kids. 100%. I agree with that for certain, right? But we got to ask ourselves this: what human being would let their children live a suffering life, or a life where they wouldn't have a chance at suffering, just out of spite for their mother? Who would do that? I don't think a lot of people would do that, to be honest with you. So then that leads me to beg the question: is what this woman saying true, or is she asking for more than she actually deserves?
You can definitely see it in the picture of her trying to say, I've come accustomed to a certain standards of living, which is a phrase that became famous for divorce. But at the same time, you can also understand that him saying, I'll give enough for the children, as him probably not being out of spite, probably not understanding the situation he's in. Because like Kramer versus Kramer, it sounds similar to someone that has tunnel vision that's trying to get something done, to someone that's raising the kids, and each not understanding the other one's footsteps and the other one's living. They're just saying, oh, we're laying in bed together, everything must be cool on their end while I'm struggling.
Right.
If the only thing I'd say to that is, if the kids are used to a certain structure, and she's the one taking the children, and she's willing to take care of the children, why try to push why try to shift their reality?
Well, to some degree, though, if you are the sole custody of the child, right? If you have sole custody of your child, to some degree, it's your responsibility to provide for them financially too, even though you're getting child support. Agree?
In part, not
fully. I'm talking about in part, right? Mm-hmm. So that means you are putting in legwork to get some bread coming in, right?
But it depends on how the family structure to begin with was. After the divorce, yes, you have to start.
That's what I'm saying. After divorce.
Yes, but if you put your wife in a position where she is now I was listening to Dave Ramsey, for example, and this woman spoke about how her husband died, and in 15 years she never had to touch the finances. She did, like, right now he's dead. She doesn't know where to go. She doesn't know how to pay the rent, how to pay the bills, nothing. She's going to have to struggle with her, she had 5 kids. She's going to have to struggle to figure out how to manage her 5 kids' lives and the finances. But if you're putting your wife in that position and you're still alive, you have to come to grips of where you're being an asshole and how you have to structure your kids to live in a better life without you being so present. Because you chose to have your wife in the house and not come to grips earlier saying, hey, maybe I should start showing her the books more. Hey, maybe I should say, hey, you want to go to work some of the days? I'll take care of them in the mornings or in the evening, and structure. So just in case you guys get divorced, she has a footing in the world and she's able to adapt.
Right.
Some men, I'm not gonna say a lot, some men don't choose to do that. They choose to, I want someone to raise my kids the best of their ability. I'll go hustle out there.
Yeah.
Instead of thinking, God knows what could happen.
Let me work with them.
Let me try to manage so everybody can manage their lives with or without me, or with or
you
without
work with
her.
me, I work with you.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, yeah, and it all should be an encompassing thing together. You know, we should always have these conversations openly, especially if you're going through a divorce. You should be able to have vulnerable conversations about finances and assets, right?
For sure.
And not leave anybody feeling like they're left out or like they're not getting their fair share. But on the flip side, and this is the biggest point I'll leave it off here with, is we cannot take one perspective for fact.
For sure.
We have to also acknowledge that this person can be asking for more than they deserve, right? And I'm going to leave it at that. But to round it off, who do you guys think is the asshole here in this scenario? Husband or the wife?
Who's the asshole in the situation? I would say they're both kind of assholes. Like, the dad's an asshole for, again.
But if you're going to put like a judgment, who's the asshole?
Who's more of an asshole?
Yeah.
The husband's more of an asshole at the end of the day. Because, listen, when you start a family, you have kids, you have a wife, you have a responsibility. You have to make sure that they're taken care of. You have to make sure that financially, like, obviously communication skills were dwindled in that relationship. Just like you guys were saying about Kramer versus Kramer about, and like that situation that Mukhtar brought up. Like, it's just lack of communication. Like, obviously she didn't feel like she didn't feel fulfilled at home. She didn't feel happy at home. And that obviously led to the disconnect, right? If they just talked more, if she just opened up, if he just opened up more, probably the relationship would have lasted. But obviously it didn't. So, but from that, her wanting to do investigations about finding about fundings just to like make sure that she gets a proper amount of money to raise the kids, I would say it's okay. Like it's in the direction of making sure the kids are paid off, paid well for, as well as making sure they're not diminishing their lifestyle. Like when it comes to divorce, people that focus on diminishing the lifestyle of just the other partner, I don't really care. But when you involve kids, the kids have to make sure that they're living in the same lifestyle that you are. You can't be living in a higher lifestyle than your kids are. That's messed up.
I can agree
You know
to
what I mean?
disagree to that.
And the fact that like they are downsizing, like that makes sense. Like you know what I mean? Like her moving into a small, like you said, it's different perspectives, right? Like her moving into a smaller place might be, oh, we're moving to an ultra mansion to a small mansion now. You know, I don't know what she's saying, but just take at face value. If he actually is moving them to a much smaller place, moving them a couple brackets down in how they were living, and he's still up there. Like if he's living up there and they're living down here, that's not right. They should be living on the same class level, 100%. So I would say he's more of an asshole because he's facilitating the situation.
Okay.
I would agree with some of that. I think you're an asshole for how you speak to. First of all, you teach your kids how to speak to their mother, and you teach your kids how to speak to their father. If you're representing yourself in a certain way towards your wife, and your kids are around to see that, boys are going to adapt to how their father is. So you need to represent yourself as a hero, not as a villain. Secondly, I would say another reason he's an asshole. You have to, again, if you're gonna make a choice of putting your wife in a certain position where it's unspoken, she is the leader of the household, you go make the money. You got to figure a way out to make her even afterwards as well. Not make her whole by giving her 50% if you guys don't choose to, but at least have her with the right footing out in the world if she has to go adapt to the environment. So that's why I say he's an asshole.
Okay. And I'll just personally just say I don't think that the guy's the asshole here. I think that the woman's the asshole, strictly off the fact that I think that this story is written in the context of one perspective, and it's giving a lot of credibility to the woman. So without knowing the actual insides of the story,
But let's just say that you only knew this perspective and you had to make the judgment.
it doesn't make any sense to me that somebody would leave their kids with less
There are people that do that.
for the sake of their
There are
spiting their
people that
wife.
are petty, irrational, you know.
At the sake of they're gonna
100%.
I don't believe that to be the case. I have more. I personally would like to have more faith in humanity than that. To think that somebody would spite their ex-spouse and at the cost of their kids. That doesn't make any sense to me.
It's a cruel
There's people that
world.
I just don't like to think that cynical. I'm not gonna lie. I just like to think glass half full. I think people are better than that.
For sure.
I think people
wouldn't
are
say
better
it's-
than that.
I wouldn't say it's cynical to think that there's some people, even like maybe a good chunk of people, not a good chunk, but like a certain percentage of people, maybe 25% of that would just, during a divorce, which even with kids involved, they would spite the other partner just because of emotional reasons.
I don't know. I think those are I don't think those are normal human beings.
You know what I mean?
I don't think those are normal. I'm just saying, based off of who I consider to be a normal human being, I don't think that would be the case 99%. Maybe not 99. Maybe 90% of the time, the father of the kids will make sure that the kids are taken care of and looked after, unless they don't want the
There's a
kids.
certain saying that I heard like a long time ago that stuck with me. That he said that basically, loving hearts make irrational decisions, just like broken hearts.
What does that mean?
So after a relationship, like you're not gonna make when your heart's broken, you're still gonna make irrational decisions because you're feeling that.
Not at the cost of my kids.
Yeah,
I
people.
feel- I don't-
No. Like,
We
that's
can't judge
what
how
you're saying is the
people's-
right thing.
Yeah.
What you should be doing.
Yeah.
But there's some people that are weak.
I think those are anomalies. I don't think that's a
Anomalies.
good percentage of humanity.
Because I don't know the numbers, but I hope you're right.
That's what I'm saying. I don't like to have that little faith in humanity. I would like to think those are just anomalies or people that are not mentally well. You know,
I wouldn't say
those aren't
mentally
normal
well.
people.
People do emotions run people rampant.
Exactly.
Yeah,
There's
but
people. There's
I
people
think,
that get into small situations, like someone bumped into me, and because
Step
of
on
the
my
environment they were raised in, think it's right to now start swinging. Where I could just
I mean, all of these things have. All of these
I could
things,
just apologize, and someone may think that's wrong.
I'm not
Yeah.
saying, but that's that you guys are taking my thought out of context. I'm not saying that the world's a great place. Everybody's great. I'm saying that it's hard for me to believe that somebody who's right in their mind would use their kids as like collateral damage to spite their wife or ex-wife. I think that that's a little bit too hard to
It's
fathom.
irrational, right?
It's irrational, yeah. It's a little bit
You
too
know,
hard to fathom, and I think those are more
Let me
alarming.
ask you this: do you think love is rational? It's logical.
Love is
What is
blind.
that question? What does that mean? I don't know what you're trying to get to.
Like when you're making decisions for your love, like
Basically,
there's-
love clouds you.
yeah,
So
love
you-
clouds your vision.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
I'm not saying
So-
that that's not the case, but I'm saying in the direct instance that we're talking about right here, I don't think that's the popular way of going about it.
It's two opposite sides of the same spectrum. Like just loving hearts make irrational decisions, broken hearts make irrational.
I don't know. I think that follows along with this whole theory that men are trash. And
Whoa,
that we all
whoa, we
hate
never
men.
said
No one's
that.
keeping it to just
Whoa.
men when we're talking about this.
That's why I'm fixating on this scenario right here. I'm not fixating on just like the concept of love. I'm just saying for a man
Yeah.
loving a woman, right? I don't think it gets to the point where, and healthy-minded people too. I'm just talking about healthy-minded people. I don't think it gets to the point where the man is going to use his children as collateral damage despite his spouse. I don't think that that's a
You
popular
know what?
thing.
I think I get what you're saying. You're basically saying like that's not the norm.
Exactly.
100% agree with you.
Yeah,
I think
we're
that-
not
I think-
saying it's
We're
not.
not saying that's the norm. 100%.
I think that
But I
that's.
think that's a small population.
I think that's, and we'll see in this comment section here. I'm not gonna lie. But
Well-
I think majority of the time people start to get conflated with whether or not these types of actions are normal,
Yeah.
right? And that's basically the point I'm trying to make. Is just by saying straight up, like I would like to have more faith in humanity to think that this person would not leave their kids starving or struggling just because they want to tell their wife, "You didn't earn what I earned."
W mindset, man.
Yeah, to be honest with you, it's just like I said, it's trying not to be too cynical and having a glass half full mentality to the point where you have faith in humanity, right? I want to think everybody's putting their best foot forward for the sake of their children. That's just how I like to think.
I
right?
100% believe majority of guys would not do that.
Like to use their kids as collateral damage.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, exactly. That's
Like, I believe majority of guys would
exactly.
not do that.
That's the point I was trying to make. But like I said, let us know in the comments below. This is the Coffee Break Podcast. I'm your host, Slim. This is my bro.
Mukhtar.
And this is our guest of honor for the day, AB Fantasy, the guy, the man. We'd like to see him back on. Shout out to our bro, Warsami. We'll see you on the other side, brother. We got this couch ready for you. Tap in. We are the Coffee Break Podcast, and we'll see you next time. Bow.